I am Kamble BK, English teacher. I am going to teach lesson number 1.6 into the wide. Now see something about the writer of this lesson. The writer of this lesson is Kiran Purandare, born 1961. After BCom, he studied environmental studies at Jordan Hill College of Education in Scotland. He is a recipient of the Sahitya Puraskar, Pune Bahi Madhav Bagal Award and Best Literature Award given by Cultural Department of Maharashtra State for Sakha Nagzira. He spent 400 days inside the Nagzira and nearby forest areas and wrote his award-winning book. The excerpt has been taken from the same. He is a wildlife expert, a bird watcher, writer and honorary wildlife warden in Maharashtra. He is also the founder of Nisarga Ved organization, which works for the nature conservation and community work around the Nagzira. A tiger rivers in Bhandra and Gondia district. He also founded Kikaz Bird Club in order to spread bird farming, which is very popular among school going students and children in Maharashtra. Part 1. Today we are going to study the part 1. As the name suggests, the excerpt is an amazing experience of the writer, where Kiran Purandare, the solitary traveler, is completely lost in the jungle of Umarzara. He narrates how he lost his way at the fall of the dusk and terrifying turmoil underwent. Detailed description how he found his way toward the Pitajery. Now see the text given with some difficult words. We should have to carefully listen the difficult words and their meanings. Listen. Into the wild means wild animals in the forest. Part first. Lost in the jungle. Part first describe how the writer Kiran Purandare was lost his way and how confusion and chaos made his life is given detail in this part 1. Now see first line. The 8.5 hour long day inside the hide. The writer Kiran Purandare stay in one place 8.5 hour long. Hide means the place built to look like surroundings. That is shelter used to get the close view of the wildlife. Hide is the place is built like a surroundings of the forest, which is made the house. The 8.5 year long day inside the hide was fruitful. He stayed in this hide. The place was built like a surroundings was. In this place he stayed 8.5 hours, and it is very fruitful for him. It is very useful for him as a jamba tree. As a jamba tree is the name of the tree, standing tall on the edge of the Umarzara. This jamba tree was standing very firmly on the edge of the Umarzara. These two things are very useful for the writer. Before wrapping up my day at this natural water hole, before finishing his work at the water hole means the small pool for the animals to drink, and he was working for this, and he want to finish this area before working is finishing of my day in this natural water hole. Before finishing his day, his work in this small water pool for the animals, he took entries. Then he took entries of the avifauna. Avifauna means the birds of particular regions, habitat and geographical. You want to make the entry in the list of his notes, the books. I took the entries of the avifauna. Avifauna means the birds of particular regions, habitat and geographical periods. All this you want to note in his notebooks. In my field notes, since I was alone, he was living alone in this area, I rushed to Pidzari village. He was running toward the Pidzari village. I rushed to Pidzari village where was stations. Now he went hurriedly towards the Pidzari, the name of the village. Where is station? Station means he started the place of the work, and he started his work of place at this Pidzari. A camouflage means give appearance with the surroundings. This setting the writer has given this place as a give the appearance of the surrounding. Camouflage means give the appearance of the surroundings. I camouflage the height. The writer has given this area appearance like the surroundings of the nature of the forest, of the height. Took my essentials before going to the Pitejara. He took all the essentials he had kept with him, all the essential things. Came up the height. Then he came up the height and stretched out my herd content. And he do everything as well as he want. He lifted my camera. Then he lifted his camera bag and took the family trip to Pidzari. He taken out his camera, which is very famous, and then he started toward the Pidzari village. Negotiating the waved leaves while walking through the woods, he was discussing with the waves of the road of the tree. Negotiating means discussing the waved leaves of the thick woods. While walking the roads, he was speaking with the leaves of the tree and moha tree, trying to make minimal sound. While walking on the road, he was trying to very minimal sound on the road. I was treading cautiously among the woods. I was treading walking. I was treading cautiously, very carefully. He was now going to the Pidzari village, and he was walking very tediously, carefully. Treading means walking, cautiously, carefully. I was treading cautiously among the woods because the jungle was very thin, and therefore, while walking to the Pidzari road, he was very cautious. I was walking, means walking, cautiously, careful. Was carefully walking among the woods of the forest. Walking alone in a jungle needs more alertness because the jungle is very thick and very dangerous animals move around, and therefore walking along the forest they have to take very much care while walking. Walking alone in the jungle needs more alertness, more carefulness than walking with a companion. When we have a companion, we must care less. But when we walk among the roads lonely, then we have to be more careful. As was alone in the fox, he was alone like the fox in this only forest. Following the trail silently. Now he take the road. Silently was walking slowly on the road. Tail means road. Following the tail silently. Tail means road. He was walking very slowly through the road toward the Pidzari. Watching with wide open eyes. He opened his eyes completely and see around the atmosphere around him. My ears were grasping. His eyes were catching the things we saw, heard. My eyes were grasping, catching a variety of sounds while walking through the roads of Pirzali, catching a variety of sounds in him. Just when familiar sound stunned me, there was one stunned means familiar. There was a familiar sound, the known sound was stunned me, attract me. He heard one familiar sound and this sound attracted him. The sound is kak kak kak, was made by the langurs. This was the sound he attracted towards it. And the kak kak sound was made by the langurs in the forest. It was a langur alarm call. The langur was given the danger call to the people. Alarm call means warning calls. It was langur alarm call. The leader of the gang of langurs was sitting on the tall tree making alarm call. One of the big langur was sitting at the top of the tree and he was making the alarm calling because he wanted to suggest something dangerous happening in the forest, and therefore he was made aware of the other animals and the man to be aware by this warning call. The leader of the gang of the langur was sitting on the tall tree making the alarm calls out of the fear. The leader of the monkeys, Asian monkeys, was frightened, and therefore with the fear he has given a warning call to his companions and other people who live in the forest. Rest of the langurs brigades continued the raising the alarm calls. When the main langurs, the brigade, given the calls, then the remaining small langurs also, the monkeys also started giving the alarm calls, the warning calls in this forest. The network of alarm calls, all the langurs collected together and they give the alarm calls together. The network of this alarm call was expanding, was increasing in the forest. Expanding is increasing. Its range is petrified. Its range is sound is very petrified. It is very frightened. Langurs were spirit. It is very petrified, very frightened for the sound, and therefore the langurs very frightened. Langurs speeded to the trees. Langur with the fright of the sound, they are speeded toward the trees. They fast go to the trees. Near the far and secular place to the tree tops. They take a secular place in the tree top because they are very frightened the sound of these alarm calls. All these upheavals, up and downs, it means disturb. All the upheavals, up and downs, are disturbed. All upheaval was created by the only animal presence of leopard. All this chaos was done. The sound of alarm, warning alarm was done because of the presence of the leopard in this area. Because all the animals were frightened by looking at this leopard, and therefore they are giving the alarm calls and they are petrified, frightened, and therefore they take the safety place in the treetop. Upheavals means up and downs, disturb. Upheavals created by the one of the animal in the presence. This is happened because of the leopard was present in the forest. This is the area, and therefore the alarm call was given by the leader of the monkey, and remaining also started, and therefore there was chaos happened, and the langurs take the safety place as a house in the treetop. Leopard. Many animals make alarm calls when they see the predators. Many animals make alarm calls when they see the predators. Many animals saw this leopard as a predator who prey the other animals and eat it. Many animals saw it. Many animals make alarm calls when they see the predators. When they saw the predator who eat the other animals, who prey the other animals, and they started giving alarm calls all bears, the tiger and the leopards. Tigers and leopards, they prey the other animals, they eat the other animals. Langur most reliable. Langur is very honest and reliable. We can believe it. Langur means monkey Asian monkey. The langur was most reliable when it is came finding clues about the presence of the apex, topmost predator. Langur, when it comes to find clues, langur has found one clues, proof about the presence of this topmost predator. Apex means topmost predator like a tiger or leopard is in jungle. This langur has seen these two predators like tiger and leopard in the jungle. The mighty elusive leopard, the strong elusive leopard of Umarsra was out of the nest. He was the dean of the place. He was the dean of the secret place. Let me dean of the secret place. And some think that this topmost predator has been disappeared in this area. About the presence of the apex and predator in the jungle, the mighty elusive leopard of Umarsra was out of lair. Lair means the den of the wild animals was. They think that is disappeared from this area. He was on the prowl. Prowl means he was in search of the prey. Now he was going to in search of his prey. The stealthily moving figure. Now someone was just slowly moving figure in this area. The stealthily moving figure in spotted gold black claw. The langur has found one figure was moving slowly in a gold black cloak. The golden black cover was spied by the langurs. This was seen by the langur that one stealthily moving figure was in the golden black cover was spied, was seen by langurs, even the small ones from the legend, from the great langurs were giving alarm calls, and therefore the langurs were giving lot of number of alarm calls to the people. Chak chak. I stayed put. That langur has failed despite that there is one big animal was moving around this area. And then the writer stayed still, gazed, determined. The leader of langur's target site and standard area. When the langur said that someone was moving around like a tiger and this leopard predator, then they decide to scan the area whether there is one strange animal was moving here and there. Where visually took some steps. They take some steps. The bluish purple. This took some steps. Stopped again. A fresh cat was living before me on the trail. Then the writer saw one sheet of the animals on the road. A fresh cat of the lying on the trail. The writer saw one of the sheet of the animals and the fly was moving around it. A scat, the sheet of the animals was lying before me on the trail in the road. The sheet of the animals was lying on the road and the fly was hovering there it. It was sure that the leopard was the bluish purple fly was hovering over it, and before the scat or the sheet, the flies, which is bluish and purple color, was hovering, moving around it. It was sure that the leopard was somewhere in the there, and therefore they become the confidence that there must be leopard moving around it. The distant alarm call of 4 horned antelope was adding to the chaos. The distant antelope is like a deer. He was also giving the warning calls in the loud voice, and therefore it is created a chaos, confusion. I barely walked around 15 meters and stopped. A writer walked nearly 15 minutes and stopped, and apparently entered the santorium of a miracle called leopard. He is surprised that the leopard has come in this area. But the big cat was not visible. But the big cat was not visible. In a elusive animal, the surroundings were reminding me that I was all alone, and time and again the surrounding I reminding that it was I alone, there is nobody in this area. As I moved forward and the tail at Pidgeri, as he was moving towards the road of the Pidgeri, the trading alarm calls. When he going toward the Pidgeri, he heard some very alarm calls, fading alarm calls from the still heard in the background. I could still instinctively, means without decision, that the leopard had moved away. He think that the leopard which is moving around is moved away. Meanwhile, I saw a man standing at a distance with a stick in his hand. Meanwhile, the writer saw a man standing in a distance. The man was standing some distance with a stick in his hand. He has taken a stick in his hand. As he approached, as the man came upward, he appeared spookily. He was frightened due to the alarm calls of the leopards. He was frightened because the alarm calls is given for the leopards. We greeted each other. The distant man greeted each other. He was a Raju. The man who was standing in distance, the name of this man was a Raju, escaping from Pidgeri. He came from the Pidgeri. He had come to collect logs. He had to collect some sticks from this area. But logs were staked. Piece of stick. But he treated due to the leopard. But because of his fear of this leopard, he go back to his Pidgeri. Leopard movement. Raju was amazed, surprised at my regular solitary visit to Umbarzara. Raju was very much surprised that his regular visit to Umbarzara, the haven, the safety place of the tigers or the predator or leopard. Haven means safety place of these animals. The haven of the tigers, leopards and sloth bears. This is the place of these tigers, leopards and sloth bears. We stopped under kusum tree. Now they stopped under a tree which is a blooming flower tree. Now the writer stopped under the kusum tree. This is the flower tree to take a break. They take a break because they are long walking and they take a break for time and they sit under the tree, kusum tree. It was a flower tree. We both felt but relaxed. When they take a break, they both felt a little bit relaxed. Now we were 4 eyes. This man, Raju escaped, and I. There are 4 eyes, 4 hands with a stick. Then we both resumed our walking tour. After some time, they started their walking also. There was one tiny track that broke up the main trail. There was a very small road that's broken into the main trail. From the main road, I will walk this road. You go straight, he said to the Raju. I climbed a familiar hillock. Then he tied the familiar is a hilltop. I crossed the cement pillar and stones. He crossed the cement pillar and stones and sacked the heap of the stones by the Forest Department Corporation to mark the ordinary of the forest compartment. The Forest Department Corporation marked the boundary of the forest compartment by the heap of the rocks. Took another trail. He took another road. After climbing down, he climbed another road, walked across the beautiful mahool tree. He walked across the mahool tree, loaded with the reddish brown flowers. This mahool tree was loaded with these reddish brown flowers. The ground under the tree was cleaned very well. Under the ground was very clean and tidy and neat. The thought instantly flashed in my mind when he saw the clean area around the tree. Then one thought came in his mind. The thought instantly came in his mind. I have lost my way, because tree he saw under the tree was very clean, and then he saw that I was lost the road. Next moment I found another dusky trail. Next moment he found another road which is very dusky. Hastily, hurriedly, I took that trail. Hurriedly he took the road. Hastily, hurriedly, tail means road. Hurriedly he took the road which took me from the narrow gorge. We took him to the narrow gully. This road took him to the narrow gully. Gorge means a narrow gully. To open the fields, which were open the field. The area was surrounded by the hillocks. All the area was surrounded by the hilltops of dry or deciduous tropics. Having deciduous tropics means having the trees that shade leaves in the dry seasons in the forest. I turned back to the spot the sun. Now the writer turned back toward the sun, where the sun is set or rise. Now geographical west was set. The sun was setting toward the geographical west was setting. The dusky, the dark tail, the dark road was vanished. The dark road was disappeared. Good heavens! I was completely lost in the jungles. The writer has lost his jungle completely. He do not find his way where he want to go to the there. That too at very dreadful time. It's a very dreadful, fearful time for him, because he lost his road. He did not find his road. The sun was melting. The sun was setting down like a fleeting runner. The man was passing swiftly, quickly. Soaked in my own sweat. He was very much frightened, and without the sweat, he was soaked. His own sweat was completely soaked. I felt like a shouting to my own heart content. He wanted to cry so loudly with his heart satisfaction. But there was no other soul to listen to my sound and wildness. He wanted to cry very loudly to my heart satisfaction, but there was no other soul, other man to listen to the sound of wildness. In this wildness, there is no man to hear the sound he wants to correct. I have two bags with me. The writer has two bags with him. The Shabnam bag having the camera, and other was small colorful handmade bag. He has the two bags with him. Shabnam bag as having the camera. One has a camera, and the cover was in the small colorful handbag used to village carry the tiffin. In the blossoming box trees. Now we came to the blossoming box trees, which produce the masses of trees. Box means which produce the masses of trees, and boop sound of consent. The boop sound of the cuckoo, of the bird, the song of robin birds, all appeared aligned to me. All these things are strength to the writer, which is the heard the sounds are aligned, are the strength to him.